midway on the turn. Dancel on the outside to the front. On the outside, here comes Sunday Silence to challenge. Now they're heads apart. Sunday Silence with Pat Valenzuela takes the lead at the quarter pole. Easy Goer back into second position. Dancel coming on third in the stretch. On the outside, it's Sunday Silence. On the inside, Easy Goer. And down the stretch they come. On the outside, it's Sunday Silence. Easy Goer with Pat Day. Back to challenge. Heads apart. Easy Goer on the inside with a slight lead. On the outside, Sunday Silence. The rest of them far back. Here's the finish of the Preakness. Sunday Silence and Easy Goer. Photo finish. Noses apart.
Alright, let's get right into this video. Welcome back to Racing Rundown. 30th anniversary of the Easy Goer Sunday Silence Triple Crown 1989 horse racing season rivalry. In my opinion, the greatest single-year rivalry between two horses ever. And I call it the greatest single-year rivalry because Affirmed and Alydar, in my opinion, the best rivalry between two horses in horse racing ever. It was a 2-year rivalry. Affirmed and Alydar ran against each other as 2-year-olds and as 3-year-olds. And Easy Goer and Sunday Silence really only ran 4 times against each other: Kentucky Derby, Preakness, Belmont, and Breeders' Cup Classic. So, just in case you're new to horse racing and do not remember 1989, or you weren't there for it, I wasn't there, but I know a lot about that 1989 season. That's one of my favorite Triple Crown seasons ever. Easy Goer was owned by Ogden Phipps, one of the most well-respected historic families in horse racing. There's a lot of history in horse racing. The Phipps family is one of those families, though. Like, they're up there with the August Belmonts and the Harry Payne Whitneys and, you know, those people that you can go down the years and talk about them. But Easy Goer, owned by Ogden Phipps, trained by Shug McGahee. Shug McGahee was still sort of an up-and-coming trainer at that time, but the Phipps family definitely has helped his career a lot. I'm not saying that Shug McGahee is not a good trainer. Shug McGahee's an all-time great trainer. Phipps family definitely helped him excel, though. And then he was ridden by Pat Day, one of the best riders ever. Easy Goer was a royally bred son of Alydar, out of Relaxing by Buck Passer. So right there, that horse right there is marked for greatness, and that's what Easy Goer was. He was marked for greatness. And then you go look at Sunday Silence, and Sunday Silence, the only great thing about him was his trainer, Hall of Fame trainer Charlie Whittingham. He was owned by the three-way partnership between Gallard Arthur Hancock III, son of Bull Hancock of Claiborne Farm, and then Charlie Whittingham owned a quarter share of Sunday Silence. He was also the trainer. Pat Valenzuela, young up-and-coming jockey, would ride him. Sunday Silence was by Halo, out of Wishingwell by Understanding. So what that basically tells you is that's modest breeding right there. I know championships aren't won in the breeding shed, but right there, Easy Goer's got everything in the breeding shed. Sunday Silence has nothing. Sunday Silence's pedigree was average at best. And Easy Goer, like I said, was absolutely royally bred. And I love that term, royally bred, and I know that kind of got on people's nerves when I used that in the Tacitus video, but that's a phrase that I use a lot, the royally bred son of whoever. So, let me talk a little bit about Easy Goer before I get into the Triple Crown season of 1989. Easy Goer was champion 2-year-old. He came into the Breeders' Cup Juvenile riding 4 straight victories, including a win in the Champagne. And he would lose that Breeders' Cup Juvenile. He wasn't a fan of running on a wet track, and unfortunately in that Breeders' Cup Juvenile it did rain, so Easy Goer was kind of predicated by the fact that he didn't like the track surface. But Easy Goer very quickly established his reputation of being unbeatable in New York. He won the Champagne, he won the Cowden. I know he did run at Gulfstream Park before running in the prep races at Aqueduct, but Easy Goer was absolutely unbeatable in New York. You could give me any horse, run them against Easy Goer on a New York racetrack, Easy Goer would win probably most of the time. He'd beat most great horses if you run them against him on a New York racetrack. I'm not going to say he could beat any horse, but he could beat a lot of great horses if you run him on a New York racetrack. Sunday Silence ran a couple of times as a 2-year-old, didn't run in a stakes race until he won the San Felipe in preparation for the Santa Anita Derby, but he ran 3 times as a 2-year-old, only winning one of them. He won an allowance race at Santa Anita before going into the San Felipe, but headed into the Kentucky Derby that year, it was all about Easy Goer. And, you know, Easy Goer was going to be the horse that, you know, vindicated Alydar by winning the Triple Crown. Ali Sheba had shown that Alidar could produce horses, very, very talented horses at that. But it was Easy Goer that was going to win the Triple Crown and vindicate his father, who was second 3 times to Affirmed in the Triple Crown of 1978. Charlie Whittingham came into the Kentucky Derby that year. Sunday Silence had won a smashing victory in the Santa Anita Derby, but the Santa Anita Derby that year didn't really have a lot of good horses in it. The other horse that was supposed to be good was a horse that was trained by D. Wayne Lucas named Houston. Houston was last in that Santa Anita Derby, so Sunday Silence absolutely blew that field out of the water. And coming into the Kentucky Derby, he was respected probably because of Charlie Whittingham, but no one really gave him a legitimate shot to win the Kentucky Derby because everyone was all on Easy Goer. And unfortunately for Easy Goer, this was kind of spelled a little bit ominous for the Phippses and Shug McGahee. It had rained the night before, so they were kind of nervous about the race. And ultimately, Sunday Silence would win the Kentucky Derby. Easy Goer would come running at him late, but didn't get close enough to really ever factor in the finish. He ran out of ground toward the end of the race. So then after the Kentucky Derby, they go on to the Preakness, and Pat Day to this day still says that the Preakness, Easy Goer should have never lost that. He 100% blames himself for it, and that's good for Pat Day, because I am not a jockey, so I don't know what Pat Day did. Well, I know what Pat Day did, but I would not be able to judge the perspective of how Pat's ride affected Sunday Silence, Easy Goer, but definitely Pat Day, he's owning up to it. Pat Day played a part in Easy Goer. I'm going to mix them up the whole video. Played a part in Easy Goer losing the Preakness. Basically what happened is Pat Day let Easy Goer run a little bit too much. It was a classic case of he used too much too early. In that Preakness, it looked like he had shut off Sunday Silence, and Easy Goer was just going to go on and win easily. But then, coming around the far turn, Sunday Silence made a run at Easy Goer again. They got pinned on the rail, and in an absolute classic stretch run, I still contend that that's the best stretch run in the history of the Preakness Stakes. Sunday Silence and Easy Goer for that. I don't know off the top of my head how long the Pimlico stretch is. If someone would like to drop that in there. I converted it one time, but it was like in a decimal that I couldn't figure out. So if someone would like to drop that in the comments and let me and the other viewers know, I would greatly appreciate that. But the entire way down the stretch, they just went at each other. Easy Goer on the inside, Sunday Silence on the outside, and ultimately Sunday Silence would prevail. And as Dave Johnson was calling that race, at the finish, he said that it was a photo finish and that he couldn't tell. You look back on it now, I'm not going to knock on him for that because it was a very good race, and it was a photo finish, I'll give him that. He couldn't tell, but you look at that, and it's pretty easy to tell that Sunday Silence nosed out Easy Goer. Trevor Denman, who was the track announcer at Pimlico, picked that up, but I'm not going to knock Dave Johnson for that. Dave Johnson's an all-time great track announcer. But Sunday Silence won the Preakness, and, there was never a thought that Sunday Silence could win the Triple Crown before the Preakness. And Dave Johnson talked about this. He was talking about the press booth on Belmont Stakes Day and how he said that's the most divided press booth he's ever been in, with, all the New York journalists mad about Charlie Whittingham coming in with Sunday Silence and upsetting the heir apparent Easy Goer in the Kentucky Derby. And, Easy Goer had basically been marked for greatness. And the way New York horse racing people are. Easy Goer was their horse, and they thought that Easy Goer was going to be the horse that finally won the Triple Crown again. And here's Charlie Whittingham just coming in and ruining the whole thing. But unfortunately, the Belmont Stakes was run at New York, and for Sunday Silence, he really had no chance to be Easy Goer on a New York racetrack. And Easy Goer won that Belmont Stakes by a commanding win. I really don't think there was anything particularly wrong with Sunday Silence. I mean, Charlie Whittingham has said that he had a bruised foot. There wasn't really any excuses in there for him. Sunday Silence just kind of was worn out after the Kentucky Derby and the Preakness. And I would say of all the upsets in the Triple Crown, that's one of the more predictable ones of Easy Goer was going to beat Sunday Silence, because it's very hard to beat in any sport. It's very hard to beat someone or a team 3 consecutive times. Something's going to give and the other party's going to get their win. But it's not even that. You knew how good Easy Goer was on a New York racetrack. If I was there handicapping that, I probably would have taken Easy Goer in the Belmont Stakes, because Easy Goer, that's a very predictable upset. Easy Goer could not lose a race on a New York racetrack. So Easy Goer and Sunday Silence go their separate ways for the remainder of the spring or rest of the spring, and really actually just the summer. But Sunday Silence has some marginal success. He wins the Super Derby, but he loses the Swap Stakes. The Swap Stakes was like the graveyard for horses that ran in the Triple Crown. If you ran in the Swap Stakes, you weren't winning anything. Don't ever run a horse in the Swap Stakes after the Triple Crown. I know Thunder Gulch did. Thunder Gulch is the only horse that I could think that won the Swap Stakes after winning Triple Crown races. But Sunday Silence lost the Swap Stakes, won the Super Derby. Easy Goer, on the other hand, soldered through New York, and he beat some really nice horses. He won the Whitney Handicap, the Travers, the Woodward Stakes, and the Jockey Club Gold Cup. Specifically the Jockey Club Gold Cup over a pretty good older horse, Crypto Clearance. And going into the Breeders' Cup Classic, it set up the Clash of Titans, and they called that the race of the decade. And I would say that that's one of the best editions of the Breeders' Cup Classic. You know, I've talked about this before, but the Breeders' Cup was created for that reason, and next week, or actually on Wednesday, I will be releasing the Easy Goer Sunday Silence Breeders' Cup 1989 recap, or whatever I'm calling that. I really don't have a good name for that series, but if you don't know about it, I'm just going through every year of the Breeders' Cup, and I have an article written about every year of it and talking about the best race, in my opinion, on that card. And I think in most people's opinion, 1989 Breeders' Cup Classic, definitely one of the best iterations of that. That's what the Breeders' Cup was made for. And it put them on a level playing field because Easy Goer didn't have the advantage of running on his home track, which is usually in the past. If the Breeders' Cup hadn't existed, like if you ran that race 10 years earlier, Sunday Silence would have had to come back out east and run in the Jockey Club Gold Cup to try to win Horse of the Year. Because that's the race that used to decide Horse of the Year, the Jockey Club Gold Cup. And I think at some point I will make a video about how the Jockey Club Gold Cup has kind of fallen off. But in that Breeders' Cup Classic, again, Sunday Silence was just the better horse. And Easy Goer made a run at him very late, but it was, again, very late. Wasn't able to get him. And Sunday Silence, well, a lot of people still argue that over who the best horse in that division was, whether it was Sunday Silence or whether it was Easy Goer. I still go back and forth on that. Easy Goer was so good if he could run in New York, but you look at the times he didn't run in New York, and he didn't win the Breeders' Cup Juvenile at Churchill Downs. He didn't win the Derby. He didn't win the Preakness, and he didn't win the Breeders' Cup. He won one time on a track that was not in New York. So he only won one race at not Saratoga, Aqueduct, or Belmont. So I would say definitely Easy Goer is one of the best horses ever to run in New York. But, you know, second in the Derby, second in the Preakness, second in the Breeders' Cup Classic, second in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile. It's kind of a suspect resume. That's why I'm always hesitant to pick Easy Goer as the better horse, because Sunday Silence went, and also Sunday Silence beat him 3-1. He went at him 4 times, and he won 3 out of the 4 times, and the only time he lost was running against Easy Goer on Easy Goer's home track. So I still go back and forth on who the best horse in that division was, whether it was Sunday Silence or whether it was Easy Goer, but I will say that's the best single-year rivalry in horse racing, and it must have been fun to cover, and I would love, like, if you gave me the opportunity to cover a Triple Crown season live as it's happening, I would have loved to cover the 1989 season. But yeah, so that was 30 years ago. That's a long time ago. That is wild how long ago that was. Sunday Silence, Easy Goer, definitely great matchups. All the races that they ran in together are in this video, but if you want to hear them in a better, like, hear the race call or just watch them not in this video, then I'll leave links to them in the description. But also you could just type in Sunday Silence versus Easy Goer and that'll pop up. So thanks for watching. Once again, Sunday Silence and Easy Goer is the best single-year rivalry in the history of horse racing. Both of them were great horses, and it was decided the right way. It was decided on the track. And I think, you know, ultimately more people are going to say that Sunday Silence is the better horse, because you look at the record and it's Sunday Silence 3, Easy Goer 1. But really, just looking back on it 30 years later, it was a great Triple Crown season. So that's it for this episode. I will see you guys later this week and for the podcast on Tuesday. And also you'll get something else this week. I don't know. I might start the Belmont preview series this week, depending on what horses commit and what horses, the whispers are. But we'll see. We'll see what comes this week. You get this video, you got the podcast, and you got something else coming this week. I can promise that there'll be at least 3 videos. So I'll see you for those, and we'll see you on Tuesday, Saturday for the live show. That's it. Have a good week.
Sunday Silence, a threatening presence on the outside. Easy Goer is set down and he's put to a fierce drive. Coming to the final furlong. Sunday Silence surges to the front. Blushing John trying to fight back. Easy Goer with one final acceleration, and Sunday Silence holds on and he wins by a desperate neck. Easy Goer was too late. Not enough to win it, and it was Sunday Silence in a racing epic.